In the White Castle, players will take on the role of leaders of their clan who are vying for position in the court of the White Heron. On a player's turn, they will draft the die from the end of one of the 3 bridges. They will then place that die onto one of the action spots in the main board or onto their player board. If placed on a gray space, the die can be of any color, though some spaces require a specific color. All of the spaces also have pip values. If you place a die of a higher value than the one on the space, you will gain coins equal to the difference. If you place a die with a lower value than this space, you must pay the difference in coins. The dice placement spaces inside the castle don't have a die color rule, but what colored die you do place there will determine which actions you can take on the card next to the die. For instance, if you put a black die here, you would get to do these 2 actions in either order. If you put a white die, you would get to do this 1 action. And note that these cards can change throughout the game, so these actions may change. Many of the actions will give you the 4 main resources: food, iron, mother of pearl, and daimyo seals. One of the best way to gain resources is to place a die on your personal board. You will gain all of the resources showing in the row of your die, and you will get to activate the appropriate row of the card next to these rows as well. Many spaces will also allow you to do the 3 principal actions: gardener, courtier, and warrior. These relate to the 3 kinds of workers you have on your personal board. When you take the gardener action, you will place your leftmost gardener onto one of the spaces next to the bridges. These spaces will cost food to go there, and then you will carry out the action on the space you placed your gardener. These spaces are also worth points at the end of the game. When you do the courtier action, you may pay 2 coins to place your leftmost courtier at the gate of the castle, and then you may spend mother of pearls to take one of your courtiers at the gate or in the castle and move them up. If your courtier ends their movement on the 2nd or 3rd floor, they will gain the card there and then replace the card on their personal board with this new card. The old card will get flipped over and added to your lantern row. Then a new card is placed in the castle. If your courtier ends their movement on the top floor, they will get to do the lantern action, which we'll talk about in a bit. You will then place your courtier on one of the spaces on the card and gain the bonus. Spaces in the castle are all worth points at the end of the game. The last principal action is placing a warrior into the training yard. Doing so will cost iron, and you will place your leftmost warrior into one of the yards and do the actions shown there. At the end of the game, warriors in the yard will score points for however many courtiers you have in the castle. Another action you will often see is the Passage of Time action. When you do this action, you will move your influence marker up on the Passage of Time track. This will determine the turn order for the next round and is worth endgame points for how far you reached. The last main action you will see is the Lantern action. Whenever you take this action, you will gain all of the benefits from your lantern row on your personal board. Once all players have taken 3 turns, the round will end. The new turn order is determined by the influence track, and then any gardeners that are below a bridge that still has at least 1 die on it will get to activate their cards again. Then the round will reset and play continues. At the end of the 3rd round, the game will end. That's right, you only get 9 turns, so you better put together some awesome combos to do as much as possible. Players will gain endgame points for their leftover resources, for the Passage of Time track, and then they'll score their 3 kinds of clan members. And at the end of the game, the player with the most points will win.